weaker area. So hormones also supplementation.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much just any knowledge you have on that, mate. I'm willing to just sit here, listen, ask questions based on what you tell me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
how to use that to get results, pretty much, and overcome roadblocks.
Yeah, man. Look, it's an interesting one because there's only so much we can. Well, the things that we can control in terms of well, my understanding is the things that we can control in terms of manipulating a client's hormones all come down to nutrition, training, sleep, and just
Yeah,
all the basic things that we do.
yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, so I guess the understanding what's going on gives us deeper knowledge and can help us rationalize why we do the things we do with a client. But in terms of actually augmenting their hormonal response to things with supplements and chemicals and stuff like that, that's probably a little bit out of where we are.
Yeah.
But I guess the main hormones that are applicable to what we do with guys and body composition would be cortisol, insulin,
Yeah.
growth hormone, um, testosterone, estrogen, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Is there anything out of that you want to sort of zero in on?
Yeah, there is. One sec, I'll grab a piece of paper and a pen, just so
Yeah.
I can.
Okay. Yeah. No dramas.
Yeah, so maybe just the basics on that kind of stuff, as well as I guess for me, maybe working clients out of plateaus a little bit as well. So I know, for example, like if I've got a guy who wants to do fat loss, and then controlling calories, so coming down and then coming up. Um, I don't know. It's a very broad kind of couple of questions I'm asking, but
Yeah, they're broad. They're broad.
I would have prepared something if I had known I was going to be the only one.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, no, mate, that's totally fine. I mean, we'll see if we can get somewhere. So I
yeah.
guess, I mean, your stress hormones,
Hmm.
so the cortisol, the adrenaline, the noradrenaline, they're good and bad.
Yeah.
So every time we train, obviously we're inducing the stress response to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So that mechanism, that flight or fight mechanism, so that in its essence is what we're sort of utilizing to train to lift heavy, even just for general exercise that gets elevated to a certain degree depending on how intense you're actually exercising. So in that instance, having elevated cortisol, elevated adrenaline, and all that sort of stuff is a really good thing. And it's because exercise is kind of a little bit like what the stress response is designed for. It's acute bursts of intense activity,
Yeah.
and so that's what we're after, and that's a great thing. Where it tips over into being a bad thing is when it's chronic and systemic, and they're constantly stressed out, and so there's this constant low level production of stress hormones,
Yeah.
and that's where the negative, all the negative implications stem from.
Okay. Yeah. So that actually brings me to a question, and I'll pull up a before and after. I've got one of my guys.
Yeah.
So a bit of context with him. He's been with me for a year. We've dropped 29 kilos.
29 kilos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
right. Awesome.
where we're at now.
Yeah.
But I guess the challenge is he's been very stressed for a long time, lifestyle wise. So like working stupid hours, doesn't sleep too well. He had a couple of injuries throughout the journey, but pretty much when we get in those phases where he's moving around for work and sleeping like maybe 5, 6 hours a night, broken, just highly stressed, hates his job. Um, we do have periods of plateau where lifestyle stress is big. So my response to that is I always bring the training back down. So if we're doing a specialized method or high volume or high intensity, I'll bring it down to a simple method, maybe 10, 12 reps, 3 sets, and it's just very basic. And I instruct him, look, I'm not aiming for you to push at 100%. We're training focus more into just getting into the gym, doing a good maybe 70 to 80% workout, pretty much just trying to feel better. Calories I kind of toggle with a little bit. Sometimes I'll raise them up when he's highly stressed. And then I'll
Hmm.
give him methods like, for example, Radox baths, just methods to try and improve sleep. In your experience, when you have a life client like that who's very much chasing body composition, but has a high lifestyle stress, what would your approach be with that? Is what I'm doing at the moment with him good, or is anything you think, no?
No, man, I think that's very good. I think that's very good and all well rationalised. So I guess the interesting thing to think about is the journey that he's been on. So how long did you say he's been training for?
Yeah, one
A
year.
year, and he's lost 30 kilos in 12 months.
Yeah, 30 kilos, 33 centimeters around the navel.
Hmm.
Well, I've only just started doing skin folds with him now because we
Hmm.
couldn't do it when he
Yeah,
started.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So we've dropped a lot of the body fat. He
yeah.
still holds around the hips, mainly the umbilical and the back.
Hmm.
So I've got him on berberine at the moment.
Hmm.
I'll start him off berberine. I went aggressive with this and chromium.
Hmm.
That didn't
For
affect me.
insulin sensitivity.
Yeah, yeah. So I had him on both to start off, and then I pulled the berberine away and kept him on chromium for a bit. And then his schedule changed, so he was working nights for a little while. So I swapped it to the berberine. He's back to working. He got back into working days, so I kept it on the berberine.
Hmm.
At the moment, he's not working at all because he quit his job.
Yeah.
But at the moment, those hips and the umbilical is just being a little bit stubborn. So
Hmm.
he's gone from needing to lose excess weight, like he was a type 2 diabetic.
Right.
Um, Brought that right down, but now it's just been stubborn. The navel's hovering around 81 to 82 centimeters. It's been there for a while.
Yeah.
We're in the process at the moment of I've given him lighter training just to try and reduce the stress, but I'm starting to bring it back up now
Yeah.
because that work stress is gone. He's kind of getting more days to himself, sleeping a bit better.
Yeah.
Is there anything do you think I can be doing there to kind of get that navel and those hip markers coming down faster?
Okay. Body fat distribution. All
He's
right.
stepping
So
around 15,000 a day.
yeah, yeah. So first of all, he's had an amazing body comp transformation, right? So given all the stress and all the lack of sleep and the work and everything else, he's still been able to drop 30 kilos,
Yeah,
which is massive. And so some people have, a genetic stress tolerance. So some people are better at coping with stress than others, and other people not so. So even given everything that he's been doing, he's still been able to drop 30 kilos, which is amazing. And it might well be that even if his life was completely perfect, having dropped 30 kilos in a year, inevitably he's going to end up at some point of plateau where it starts to get hard, right?
yeah,
Which is where he is. So that's where he is. Doing what you're doing with the training when he's very stressed is really really good.
yeah,
So you back off from it. You still maintain the routine of training. You maintain the nervous system efficiency because they still get to go through the movement patterns. You're maintaining muscle mass even with 3 sets of 12, something like that. You're still going to provide some stimulus to retain the muscle that they've got. A lighter training session is great stress relief. So
mhm,
you're ticking all the right boxes there. In terms of the body fat distribution, everyone loses and puts on fat at the places that they do, and
yeah,
it's typical that the first place they put it on is the last place that it comes off, and that process of fat loss is just stubborn when it gets to a certain point. Tinkering with in terms of matching up body fat distribution with hormonal profiles like the biosignature stuff,
yeah,
it's interesting, and I'm sure there's some decent level of scientific method behind it, but
yeah.
from experience, having done some of the Poliquin stuff and applied the supplements, I don't know if I see much greater difference in the people respond from having the supplements and stuff as opposed to just continuing the fat loss process. The
Okay,
one caveat would be is that some people really buy into it. So having the chromium and then the berberine and all these things at different times and switching it around can keep them engaged. They know they take the supplements, it keeps the structure going, it keeps them psychologically engaged in the process. I think that's really useful.
yeah,
And those supplements have got good research behind them as well in terms of maintaining insulin sensitivity. So you're doing a good thing there for someone who's been a type 2 diabetic. So that's all good. But the hips and the midsection might just be the fact that that's where it's stubborn for him, and the answer is to lose more fat. So how do we get him from where he's been to lose more fat? So what's his strength like? How has his strength progressed over the period of that year?
Yeah. So over the year, his strengths come up heaps. Like he's pressing heavier. I never progressed him to a full back squat.
Yeah,
Just because for the whole time he's been with me, he's either had his home gym, which he hasn't had a heaps.
right.
A lot of the exercises have stayed similar just because of what he's
Yeah,
got access to.
that's
And
fine.
then
So do you actually coach him, or is he training on his own?
no, I coach him. I see him once a week.
Okay, yep,
But most of the time it's in either his home gym or it's just make do with whatever he has when he travels for work. So there was
yep,
about 4 months where he was just in like countrysides, very little access.
yep.
So now he's just got a gym membership. I'm starting to progress exercises more now that he's
Nice.
got more access.
Yep.
So there's that.
And so do you feel like how much muscle do you reckon he's built in that period of time?
I don't reckon too much.
Yeah,
So I've taken him in and out of a heavier deficit for a lot of the time.
yeah,
Just because I needed to get him low for him to move. Every time I kind of built up his calories, he kind of held weight.
yeah, yeah,
But where he was, I was like, no, I need let's scale weight coming down. So we've
yeah,
gone from 105 to 76 he's holding now.
yeah,
He's been holding around there for a while.
yeah,
Um, I guess we're at the point now where I do want to start building a bit more lean mass, and because he doesn't want to dip below 75 kilos.
okay,
So I've switched my focus from purely fat loss to more recomping, and I've
mm,
started using the skin folds. So
mm,
off my pinch, he's sitting at about 16.8, I think it is body fat percentage.
yeah,
I want to start to build those calories up week by week, which is what I've started doing.
mm-hmm,
Strength has definitely come up in that time. So he's able to do like body weight chin ups with a bit of weight strapped to him.
nice,
Pressing and everything's come up. That's
yeah,
becoming more my focus where I'm okay, let's focus on getting you stronger,
yeah,
building more lean mass rather than just purely go for fat loss. Hence why I'm starting to build his calories back up.
yeah,
But it's been hard with that just because there's been periods where he hasn't even had access to a gym.
mm,
So it's been more on the side of, okay, he's been hitting around 15,000 steps a day, more that aerobic kind of just burn low
yeah,
calories,
yeah,
which that was the methodology for a long time. And I've definitely given him breaks.
mm,
But we haven't really progressed to, okay, let's put you in a, you know what I mean, baseline or surplus of calories, build lean mass. We haven't done that yet.
yeah.
I'm slowly building him toward that now.
Yeah, yeah. So I was asking you those questions because that's where I would be taking it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be saying, righto, mate, you've done an amazing job with all this fat loss, and we've been able to do that without consistent strength training all the way through, because we know that if we just keep you moving and we've got a deficit applied, the fat's going to come off. Now is the opportunity to really zero in on the strength training and dedicate a good 3 to 6 month block of mastering strength training. Get strong, build some muscle, do exactly what you're doing with the calories. You don't want him spilling over, like people that have had that much fat loss, they can put it on again real quick, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that was my question too. So
Yeah,
I spoke to Mick a little bit about it, and I'm aware his pancreas might have a bit of damage
yeah,
from obviously being that overweight. Now, when I build him up, obviously I'm going to have his protein, I'm going to have some healthy fats there.
yeah,
Generally, I know in the building phase, you just add carbs over time, like 5 to 10%, depending.
mm-hmm,
What would your thoughts be on someone who's been a type 2 diabetic, who's like, I'm having the issues now with getting it off the hips and the back, obviously the
yeah.
insulin resistance markers. Would you still say build up slowly with carbohydrates and see what happens, or would you say go more along the line of fats?
Yeah, I'd be going. I'd be setting. I'd be setting carbs at the sort of the minimum level that he needs to feel good and train well, which can still
Yep.
be a decent amount. He could still be having 200 grams of carbs a day, or thereabouts. But I would be going longer, lower, slower. So I'd be he might not even hit a huge surplus of calories. It could just be a tiny little surplus just for periods of time, and the progress will be slower and it will take longer, but with a decent protein target and maybe bumping up some fats gradually over time, and even maybe the protein, and just take the long, slow, hard way. And because he's already been in it for a year, so
Yeah.
you can convince him
Yeah. I'm confident he'll be with me for a long time.
he'll be with you for a long time, man. So you've got plenty of time to work on him, and it's like, like if you think about a bodybuilder doing an off-season bulk and then an on-season cut, and in that process, that they might put on an extra fucking 10 kilos of overall scale weight at the peak of their bulk, and then they cut down, and if everything's gone well, maybe they've got an extra couple of 100 grams of muscle mass, and they look a bit better. Do you know what I mean? But they've had this massive change, put all this weight on, they've cut down for the show, and at stage weight compared to where they were last show, they might be a couple of 100 grams heavier, or maybe
Yeah.
a kilo if they've done a really great job, depending on how advanced they are. So you can take the bulking cutting approach, or you can just go, fuck, all right, it takes a long time to build a couple of 100 grams of muscle. And this guy's probably, training age is pretty young, so he's probably still got muscle to build. Like he can probably still do it, but and it only needs a slight surplus for him to keep doing it. So I would take him longer, lower, slower, build him over time, and then at a point where he's like robust and ready, cut him down again, or maybe have a few little mini cuts and some bursts along the way, and see how it goes.
Okay, awesome. So you definitely think at the moment try to keep carbs as low as possible, but still get the effect. Maybe utilize more fats there.
Yeah.
Question with this guy, he is older,
Right.
so he's 50s.
Yeah.
Would that determine with fats as well? Because I know the older you are, like you become less able to use those fats. It's better to use those with younger people, or do you think disregard that in this case?
Well, I mean, he's not like he's going to be in a massive surplus anyway. So if
Yeah,
he's 76 kilos, you're probably giving him what, like 120 grams of fat a day, like.
yeah. I'm
So
just
it's
looking at these things.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So it's, I don't know if that would be too much of a concern.
Okay, cool. So just go with it. Because at the moment, I've got him at only just around 1,600 calories on his training day on
Okay.
order.
Yeah.
Reason being is because I had to dig in to get that weight loss from happening, especially when he was away.
Yeah.
So his body just did not want to move unless I had him low, like
Yeah.
1,400 calories.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
said he felt good. Like outside of the stress and everything from work, because he hated his job and he was working like 18-hour days at some points.
Fuck.
Um, yeah, he told me he didn't feel a difference between being that low or being at 1,800, 1,900 calories, but the scale weight and the body composition happened when I got him lower.
Mm.
And I know he's compliant.
Yeah.
He'll let me know in advance if he's ever going to go off plan.
Yeah.
But that's where I've got him now. I've got him, his scale weight is at 76 kilos flat.
Mm-hmm.
His protein is at, sorry, I'll share my screen with you if that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. No worries. Do I have to enable you or anything, or
I'm not sure.
just have a
Yeah, I
go?
think I do. I think I do, yeah.
Okay. So I go. Do I go participants? Or allow make host. I'll make you a host.
Okay,
Change host.
cool. And okay, so yeah, so I'll pull this up, and this has changed a couple of times. Um, but that's what I've got him doing at the minute. I know I need to bring fats up. I had him on nuts for a while, but he said to me he wasn't liking it, so I took him off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing him next Tuesday, which I already intend to bring those fats up.
Yeah. So it's.
Um,
Can you just make it just a little bigger, just so I can,
yeah,
just where the calories are.
so 1,561.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So he's maintained it.
Macros. So is that 168 protein,
Yeah,
125 carbs, and
yep,
45 fats?
yeah. So
Yep.
fats I'm going to bring up.
Yep.
So I'll bring up the fats. Protein, I'm pretty happy there at the moment.
Yep.
I did recently bring it up a little bit more.
Yep.
So yeah, there was a point where I just took away a bit of that. But I put that back. The carbs there, I kind of don't want to touch too much yet. I'd rather
Yeah.
bring the fats a bit more first because they do need to come up.
I think so. Yeah.
And then bring up carbs slowly over time was my plan. and his fiber I'm pretty happy with at the moment.
Yeah.
He does get a bit blocked up sometimes, but that's more when he doesn't sleep, and usually he doesn't sleep because of stress.
Mm.
I found a correlation with him. He doesn't sleep well, and then he gets really blocked up and bloated. When he sleeps better, he has just normal digestion.
Yeah.
So looking at that, obviously bringing fats up, is that kind of thought process you'd agree with there?
Yeah, for sure, man. That's where I'd be going first, for sure. Yeah. You can take
Okay.
those 45 grams of fat. I mean, you can start moving him up towards a gram per kilo of body weight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, you just go, just as you're doing, mate, it's like you just go slow and steady. And when he has these periods of time when he's actually training a little better and he starts, and the work capacity of the workouts are good, or he's lifting heavier and he's doing it consistently, the need, like the drive for more than 1600 calories will start to kick in.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course, daily. Because he's extremely active, even when he's not working or he trains every day almost.
right. Fuck. Good on him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
He came because he had a lot of things. He just wanted to completely transform himself.
yeah,
And he's done it one day. Like this is his third daily check-in sheet I have, and you can see by the steps, like 13,000 average, 16,000 average, 13,000
yeah.
average, 15. My target for him was 10 to 12.
Right. Yeah,
Come
yeah,
up heaps. You
yeah,
can see like Naval's sticking between 82, 81 at the moment.
yeah.
My thought process is like, all right, his body's been low for a while. The way I get everything moving is by building up his calories. I don't want to do it too quickly, obviously, because I don't want
Mm,
him to go over. And I guess knowing he was a type 2 diabetic and that the pancreas, I'm trying to reverse some of that damage, I just don't want to bring up the calories too quick in carbs.
yeah,
I asked you the question about fats.
yeah, yeah.
But you can see there as well, like dropped 300 grams last week on the average, 100 grams before that. But these weeks lately have been more, okay, light training, 3 sets of 12, just because he's been highly stressed with work.
Mm,
So I said to him, look, at the moment, body composition is not my focus. I just want you to feel good and kind of take control over your life a bit again.
yeah, yeah.
Because, yeah, he quit his job and everything just because it was sending him backwards mentally.
Mm,
And even that sleep, like this is all work related, like 2 hours, 4.5 hours, 4.5 hours, 4 hours.
fuck.
And he was still getting up, doing all those steps, working, getting his training days in. He didn't really ever skip days.
Amazing.
Uh, so that's what we're working on. 4 hours average sleep, 5 hours average, 6 hours average, 7 hours so far this week. So
Mm,
he's getting better.
yeah.
He did his job here. He finished up here.
Right, right, right.
So yeah, I said to him, look, body, I'm not worried about your body composition at the moment. I just want you to get some energy back, feel better,
Mm,
refresh yourself. This week he started a tricep method after doing the 10 to 12, just because now I know things are coming up.
yeah,
Um, he's
that's
just coming
good.
up with lots of that. So I didn't want to keep him in the 10 to 12 too much. I did want to start to challenge him again now that he's got his days free.
Yeah, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that stuff?
Mate, that'll, yeah, I mean, I think that's perfect. I would, yes, now that he's got his day free and or he's more of his time back, I'd be doing exactly what you're doing and get into his ear and say, mate, take control of your life. Let's make strength training a real key driving part of that. And yeah, and focus on the weights. What was I going to say? Yeah, in terms of the body comp and the midsection and the love handles and stuff like that. Given that he was quite overweight, like there's probably also a lot of extra fat cells around that, like you know how fat cells can actually hyperplaze, so you grow more fat cells. So it'll probably take, like it's just going to take time for all that to happen. So yeah, I would do what you've done, shift the focus away from body comp, focus on performance and feeling good, man. Like that's all
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah,
So
and maybe what you would do is actually have a think about the periodization, like where you're going to take him over a
yeah,
few phases after the trisets, and then sit down and map it out with him and say, mate, this is what I've got planned for you.
mhm.
This is where we need to go. I want to see strength development. I want to see some muscle come on, and I'd like to see the calories come up, and set him a target to work at.
Yeah, so what I've done, because I've had to shift my thinking a little bit recently with obviously this coming up with his sleep and everything and his stress just exploding with his job when he was in
Mm,
it.
crazy,
I
man.
had him. I had him doing a 6 to 8, so I did volume with him for a while,
Yeah,
and then I was like, all right, let's go 6 to 8. I want to build some strength,
yeah.
get that central nervous system recruiting more muscle fibers.
Mm-hmm.
So I took him into there. I kind of brought him out of that a bit prematurely back into a 10 to 12 because of the stress.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I want you to just take the focus away from pure strength training to just moving
Let's
and
just
you know
get
what I
it
mean,
done.
feeling
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so I took him out of 6 to 8, kept the exercises the same, but shifted it from a 10 to 12
Yeah.
and brought the set volume down from 4 to 3 per exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Did that, and then he's been 10 to 12 for, I'd say, about 5 to 6 weeks. I kept
Mm-hmm.
him there just because everything else on the outside wasn't improving.
Yeah.
And then I've brought him back into the tricep method just to challenge him a bit more in the area of volume. So just targeting muscle groups and really smashing each muscle group now that
Mm.
he's got a bit more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What are the rep ranges in the tricep?
8, 8, 15.
8, 8, 15. Nice.
Yeah, so I've got him that. And my next thing was I want after the tricep method, now that I've got him in the gym, because he's only started training in a commercial gym this week.
Right.
I wanted to introduce a DUP. So I wanted to see if he could do 6 days a week. I know he'll do it.
Yeah.
But even if he didn't, not an issue. And go a 5 to 8 method on the first 2 days, a 8 to 12 on the second 2 days, and a 15 to 20 on the third 2 days. And
Nice.
in that for a while, 6 week periodization with a preload, 3 working weeks, a max week, and a deload.
Nice.
Um,
How have you done the split?
I haven't done that yet.
Right.
So I was thinking about just a push pull,
Push pull.
just to keep it simple. I'll introduce maybe push pull legs later.
Yeah.
But at the moment, because he's always trained off just, specialized methods and GPP methods, I
Yeah.
haven't introduced him to DUP yet. I was
Yeah.
holding off until we could get him into a commercial gym. Part of that was also getting permission off the missus because he's got the home gym and everything.
Right. 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 Yeah.
But now he's got that. I want to take him into the DUP kind of method, but I just want to do a tricep method first to create a bit more hypertrophy there,
Mm.
and then get him back in so I can get the kind of relative strength mid portion and then higher volume in the same week.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
obviously, I want his stress to be a bit lower, which you can see by the sleep. He's adding an extra hour sleep on average per week.
Yeah. That's great.
Sleep quality is still on and off. He just stresses a lot. Digestion was better last week. You can see he's bloated there.
Mm.
But you can see with my correlations, struggled to fall asleep the last couple of nights and bloated.
Interesting.
And if I go back through his last few check-in sheets, usually where you'll see struggling to fall asleep, you'll see bloating.
Bloated. Bloated.
Sometimes
Interesting.
not, but generally, yeah.
Yeah. So that's in terms of the hormones. So and you'll probably be aware of this, but it's worth making note. So if he's not sleeping, if he's having those horrible sleeps and short sleeps, he's probably not sleeping because he's stressed, and because he's not sleeping, the stress levels, the stress hormones are even more elevated and chronically elevated than they would be otherwise. And one of the things that happens, or the mechanism via which elevated cortisol levels can affect digestion, is that essentially the system is designed for those acute bursts. So the old saber-toothed tiger analogy. You see the saber-toothed tiger, you have this huge stress response, you get a massive release of cortisol and adrenaline, and all of the blood that's around the viscera of the body, around the center of the body, gets distributed out to the limbs, the arms and legs, so that you've got blood flow. You've got the stress hormones actually then initiate a lot of release of glycogen. So the liver and and muscle cells will dump glycogen into the bloodstream. So you've got an energy source. So you've got blood and energy in the limbs, so that you can run or fight or climb a tree or do whatever it does. So all the resources that you would usually use to digest a meal, all the blood flow around the viscera and the actual function of the digestive system. When you've been chased by a tiger, digesting a meal or fighting off a cold or having sex isn't a priority. So all of the body's resources get diverted away from the digestive system and the immune system and the reproductive system to fuel just the stress response. And when it happens in short bursts, that's no problem, because 15 minutes after you've escaped the tiger, everything starts to come back down to baseline, and then you're all good again. But if you're just chronically stressed all the time and just always pumping out these stress hormones, then those the digestive system just isn't getting the resources that it needs to digest food and break stuff down as well as it should.
Okay. So on that note, that raises a question then. With my steps here, so you can see his steps are like way beyond the targets I set him. Should I be getting strict on him and actually get him to reduce that? Do you think that would have kind of an effect? Because I know like there's different kinds of stretches, and I know some are good, some are bad, but they all do for the same effect. Should I actually get him to reduce steps to allow for other things to happen in the body, like chemical reactions? I mean, get the blood flow to the different areas, do different things, or do you reckon having high steps is still beneficial?
Um, so I mean, I would think about it in terms of what the goal of the steps are and what the goal of the phase of training is. So he's been through a massive block of fat loss, and so obviously you want NEAT to be high. So all those daily steps are fantastic. Now, obviously, you still want him to keep moving, but maybe you could pull them back a bit and just get him to focus more on strength training. The benefit being is that when you want to then reintroduce fat loss, you've got that little tool up your sleeve of, all right, let's bump up steps. You know what I
Because
mean?
that's what I mean.
Yeah, and the other thing is that like with all cardiovascular work and steady state stuff, the body adapts quite well to doing it over time. So he's probably cruising through those steps. They wouldn't be having the same caloric impact as what they were 6 months ago or 8 months ago. So maybe you
Yeah,
could back off it a bit.
that's what I mean. So if I told him, Clayton, you're not allowed to exceed the say 10 to 12,000 steps there,
Yeah,
and keep him out of it for 3 to 4 weeks,
yeah,
and then reintroduce it maybe when I give him the DUP. So in the tricep method I've just started, he's a week into it.
yeah,
Reduce his steps as much as possible.
yeah,
And when I introduce his next phase DUP, say, okay, I'll give you a few more steps so his body can desensitize.
yeah, yeah. That's not a bad idea. I mean, there's so much volume in that triceps anyway. That should fucking gas him out. Like, just say, mate, I want you to just focus on, over how long will the block be? 4 or 5 weeks?
So this tricep method has 3 weeks left.
Yeah, so a 4 week
And
block.
then yeah, and then his DUP will go for six
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah, mate. I reckon that might be a nice idea.
Okay, cool. So I'll do that. I might even just adjust things today. So I'm thinking about just adding re-adding the nuts in because he's not completely opposed to it.
Right.
Because I don't like to give him things that they struggle to eat.
Yeah,
But I'll give him say 30 grams of nuts, just get those fats up a bit more and tell him, okay, I'm banning you from taking too many more steps to compared to this.
yeah.
That way, you can start to desensitize his body.
Mm,
I can tell him maybe if you want to do a 6 day of gym training to substitute that, go for it.
sure.
And that way, when I introduce the DUP, I've got that tool back up my sleeve where he's not
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah. And if
adapted to it.
everything's like if everything's going well, and he's responding well, and you don't feel you need to apply it straight away, keep him up your sleeve for a little bit longer. Just get him to
Yeah, yeah,
keep focusing on the DUP, mate. 6 days training. That's awesome. And with the we'll get back to the training in a second. With the nuts, do they not sit well with his digestive system, or he just doesn't like them?
yeah. He just not that he doesn't like him, he just got a little bit sick of him.
Right, right. Does
So I
he?
just took them out for the sake of like, I don't want you to get sick of them because I want to be able to give them to you again later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so the 45 grams of fat that you've got there, is that including the fats inherent in the meat that he's eating, or this is just the fat that he adds to the day?
That's inclusive at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. So
Right.
he'd hardly be adding much on the side. It'd be like a little bit of fucking oil or something like that, and he'd be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, man. So you could bring in some nuts if he likes avocado. Like avocado's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that gives me a bit more clarity because obviously battling just lifestyle and stress and everything. I mean, he's achieved an awesome result, but I
Mm,
was thinking back a little bit with the steps. That's why I thought of it then when you were explaining that stuff to me to ask. But just putting that tool back in the tool belt for a little bit, letting desensitize to it.
yeah.
But yeah, that's the biggest thing too with those sleep hours. I want him to be able to sleep. So I'm just worried that the double-edged sword, if I do reduce his volume a little bit there, I'm hoping it doesn't affect his sleep. If that makes sense. Like he's got more energy going to sleep, more thinking power.
Right, right, right. Yeah, maybe.
Because
Just yeah,
like
potentially.
there was a bit of mental health involved with this one as well.
Yeah.
to the tune of coming off antidepressants. So
Right, right,
he's come off that now, but lately before he quit his job, he was starting to get back there.
right.
So part of the thing was to tire him out to the point he wasn't thinking at night as much as possible, like just no energy to.
Mm,
So I guess that's a double-edged sword of where I'm thinking. I want to kind of take away that need a little bit, but I don't want to have him go into bed with too much energy.
yes, yes, yes. I guess you'll just have to have a go and see how he responds. Is he taking anything for sleep?
Just I've got him on magnesium nitrate.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty standard with all my clients. Otherwise, no, we've spoken about sleeping because he's doing a bit of meditation stuff now.
Nice.
I've told him no screen time an hour before bed, like all those basics, dark room. So he's done all that, and his sleep's gotten better. Like looking at this is decent for him.
Mm.
Not so much up there, but these last couple of weeks, I've
Yeah, man.
seen it's on end where he's had just struggled to fall asleep, struggled to fall asleep, struggled to fall asleep. Not so much the sleep hours, more the sleep quality of those hours.
Yeah, yeah,
Sleep hours definitely that's some of the worst I've seen it, except for when he went away.
yeah.
But it's just tough. There's a lot of moving parts here at the moment. Every time I think of okay, I can adjust this, I think of the pros, but also okay, but is that going to have this effect on this and cause another issue?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I get it, man. But I think your instincts for what you're doing are good. I would trust your instincts for sure.
Yeah,
And mate, I think you'll be able to sleep. Like if he starts doing those trisets properly, like you know what it's like to do an 8-8-16.
yeah.
He'll sleep. He'll be fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
reckon just go ahead.
How did he respond to the eights when you were giving him some eights?
Quite well.
Yeah.
Quite well. He was now that's the thing again with strength. It was hard on the days he trained at home because he's only got so many set weights and some of them are big jumps. So for example, 20 kilo dumbbell or 25 kilo dumbbell. So that limited him a bit, but overall pretty good. On the days he came in with me before the stress hit the fan, shift the fan with that, he was improving as I'd expect him to. I just didn't get enough time in that 6 to 8 method before I had to cut it back because of the
Yeah,
lifestyle.
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah,
reckon about had about 2 weeks with him in that, and then I had to cut him back to
yeah.
10 to 12. And then for weeks I was like, look, I'm not writing up a new program yet. We're keeping the same program, just do the 10 to 12 method because I'm not chasing too much stimulus there. I just want you to use it more of a de-stress and an escape. Because yeah, just with that, I just saw look better to handle this side of things at the moment. Put body comp on hold because if I feel like if I push too hard for this, it's just going to make everything collapse.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
man, I reckon that's really good. I think the DUP will be a good phase of training for him as well. Like it, you know, it's not coming off the back of trisets is nice as well because he's touched a couple of eights in the triset, so it won't be too foreign for those first 2 days of the DUP. Plus, he's got the 15, so the metabolic stress days in the DUP, he'll have a little bit of conditioning for that. So I think it's a good choice for a block of training.
okay, awesome.
Yeah, yeah, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
but it was good. I think this one-on-one was awesome because I was able to bring him up, and he's been awesome. Like compliance, he's one of the best compliant clients I've ever had, and consistent.
Yeah,
He's just about to start his fifth package with me now
yeah.
in a couple of weeks. So that's not an issue. I've got the buy-in there, but it's just like, all right, we've achieved this massive result. We're at that point where that natural plateau is happening. His weight doesn't want to move. With what we've been doing, he also doesn't want to dip below 75. Which I agree with. I would like to start building some lean mass and just filling him out.
Yeah.
On his arms have definitely come up. Just while we're doing that, those few weeks of 10 to 12 method, I put more volume into his arms.
Yeah.
Just said repeat the arm day twice, get rid of this day. Just so I wouldn't overdo it with him.
Yeah.
So we've seen some gain from that, but now I just kind of want to fill out the loose skin a little bit, as well as still attack those hips in the back and the umbilical and get those fat cells moving away as well. He's an interesting one.
Yeah, mate. But that's yeah. I mean, he'll be one of these ones that you look back at the end of your career and just go, "Fuck, man, that was a almost like a once in a career kind of client." Someone like that.
Yeah,
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 that's
definitely.
awesome. That's awesome, mate.
But that was very helpful. It was good to just bounce ideas off you because I'm like, okay, I'm thinking this, this, and this. This is kind of what it says, but am I digging myself into a hole by doing this, or am I?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I think everything you said makes sense. Like if you just You don't overthink. You don't need to overthink things. But if you ask yourself those questions and then just come back to first principles and say, okay, what's the simplest thing, then you'll usually find your answer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great, mate.
Yeah, thanks for that one. I've got another one as well. I spoke to Mick a bit about it a bit
Yeah,
yesterday, but I wanted to get another voice on it. So I've got another client here.
yeah,
She's been with me about 4.5, 5 months. Pull out my photos. Now we've achieved 10% body fat loss. She started at 29.6. She's currently at 19.8 off my
yeah.
hinge. Um, that's front,
Oh, yeah, nice. Very nice.
um, side,
Yep, yep, yep.
and back of there.
Yeah, big difference from the back. Yeah,
Yeah. So
awesome.
what I'm noticing at the moment, triceps just back of the arm fat, and even just over on the posterior, it's been very stubborn, especially lately.
Mm,
So measurements are coming down. Arms haven't moved in a while. She had lipo before she started, like well before we started training together.
mm,
So I'm noticing the biggest gain is actually on her hips and umbilical, which for me, in most cases, it's usually the opposite. Usually it's the limbs and everything that move first, and then it's the navel that comes in last.
mm.
Um,
Where did she get the lipo done from? Like what
uh,
part of the body?
just her stomach.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, they're actually sucking out fat, like in fat cells and all of it. So, yes, she'd be probably less likely to. Well, yeah, it'll be easy to drop there.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was my. But I asked Mick and yesterday. I just thought I'd ask you the same thing.
Mm,
Does having lipo and things like that kind of change the body's response to, say, fat loss? So a lot of like, if she didn't have lipo and she moved like normal, so like you know, what I mean, face drops first, everything else drops first. That navel is kind of the stubborn, hips stubborn, last thing to come in.
mm.
Do you think that lipo could be the reason why she loses from there first,
I
having
would.
something under
Y-
your body?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. I mean, I'm assuming that she got lipo done in that area because it was probably a weak spot for her anyway. So you'd have to assume that genetically she was predisposed to holding body fat around the midsection. So she went and got lipo. She's had a whole ton of fat and not just the actual fatty acids, but the actual cellular structure that contains the fats. Fat cells have all been sucked out. So yeah, she would have less ability to store fat in that part of the body because there would be less fat cells there.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. Because I was kind of thinking that to myself and asked Mick, and he pretty much said the same thing as you.
Yeah.
Um, with that, so she's an interesting client. Like I've got the buy-in with her. She's in her second package with me.
Yeah.
She enjoys her training, everything, but she's someone who's got very high expectations on herself. And weekly she comes in and is like, okay, look, you need to see the wins of what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's not moving as fast as you'd like, but that's not always a bad thing. Like that whole, okay, here are the markers. Um, for example, cycle comes on. Look, we know we're going to see less on the scales and the measurements these weeks.
Mm-hmm.
With her, obviously, it's explaining, look, we have a lot to do here. Here are the things we're doing. So, for example, movement patterns have come up a long way. She had an injury that plagued, like, she couldn't do things like deadlifts and stuff for ages. We're kind of working past that to the point there's no pain anymore. Now we're just building up that movement pattern.
Yep.
So with her, it's just reminding her, look, you're making a lot of progress. You're not where you want to be, but it's a journey. So just mapping that out for her. And she knows it, but she kind of gets impatient with herself.
Right.
I've just put her in glycine this week to help
Yeah.
with the hamstrings, the back of the arms. Is there anything you recommend outside of the glycine, the magnesium powder, the multivitamin, the fish oils that you might would put her on?
For for to actually try and target fat loss at those areas of the body.
Yeah, yeah,
Look, I don't know of any. I don't know of any supplement that is going to specifically reduce fat from a certain part of the body
yeah,
in a direct fashion. So, if you were taking the Poliquin approach, you would look at which fat sites correspond with which hormones, and maybe you would try to find a supplement or a lifestyle intervention that would reduce the production of that hormone or increase the production of another hormone, but it gets so deep in the weeds that I haven't really seen anything convincing in my time that people have been able to apply to induce fat loss that wasn't just based to genetics and a deficit of energy.
Okay,
That's basically how I feel about it.
yeah,
I know that I know that if you increase blood flow to an area, that in the context of an overall deficit of energy, in theory, if you were to enhance blood flow to, like, tricep extensions or some high rep triceps extensions or something like that, right? And you bring a lot of blood to the area, it is possible that maybe more blood flow means more stress hormones to the area. The stress hormones are required to interact with the fat cells to liberate the fatty acids, which then go back into the bloodstream and get taken away to other parts of the body to be utilized as energy. So, in
yeah,
theory, enhanced blood flow might enhance, at the very least, fat mobilization from an area. So there's that. I know that Rawdon has played around with topical creams like fat loss, thermogenic fat loss creams and burners and stuff like that. But that has been in the context of an athlete being, a couple of weeks out from stage, super fucking shredded, and there's just that last bit of abdominal fat to go. So let's put a cream on there and play around with that and see if we get something, and maybe there's a result. But I don't know how much can be done to really specifically target fat loss in an area apart from just having an overall deficit and continuing the fat loss process, and then it's gonna come and go where it comes and goes.
okay. Yeah, because I've like at the moment I've got her on one dedicated arm day. She trains 5 times a week.
Yeah,
Was training 6 days when she started with me, but I actually stopped her from doing that just because she's the kind of person like, oh, I'll do this and I'll go train twice a day. So I'll do 10 workouts in a week.
yeah, more is better.
Um, yeah, she was very much like throw the kitchen sink at me. And then I kind of had to explain to her, look, sometimes less is more.
Yeah,
So it's very much, and with her crazy lifestyle as well, like I mean, stressed, always moving around. I
yeah,
sort of look, need to learn how to rest and to settle
yeah.
down.
It may
Uh,
be okay. Like if she's super stressed like that,
yeah,
and her weight fluctuates a little bit and around the cycle and stuff like that, there might actually be fat loss going on, but she's retaining fluid. So
yeah,
she's retaining water, and maybe for her genetically, triceps and around the back, or those areas where she gets puffy and fluidy. So she might be dropping
yeah.
fat, but you just might not be able to see it.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of factors there. So her cycle, the week of and the week before are like there's 2 weeks with her that we don't really see any drop.
Mm,
So it's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So like I've told the whole thing, okay, investment weeks. We know it's not going to move on the scale or the measurements
yeah,
these couple of weeks, but you'll see it later. And that's been pretty consistent. The stress definitely. I thought of that. It's like, okay, look, I mean, like both her parents are sick, so she's running around after them constantly.
right.
Starting a new job, like traveling a lot at the moment just for the induction week. So there's a lot of that going on. I had this conversation with Nick the other day, and with the arms because I've tried bringing more volume into that in times, and nothing's really worked. What are your thoughts on actually atrophying the muscle a little bit? So obviously losing a little bit of muscle mass, take away the arm day, but losing that lean mass will also kind of take away from the fat stores there. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, the impact that training is going to have on the fat stores in that part of the body are so minimal. I think that like I went through that example in terms of a theoretical case that may be able to be made, but I think the impact of doing direct arm work to try and increase blood flow to cause fat loss would be well and truly outweighed by doing what you're doing, reducing training to the arms, and
Yeah,
putting that volume or that work into something more total body, which is going to, expend more calories, have a greater metabolic effect, and overall have a greater impact on a body composition.
okay, so to clarify then, say I was to take her arm day out completely and say, okay, we're not doing anything on the arms for the next little while. Would you recommend turning that into another strength day and just dividing it up between the other body parts, or maybe doing a cardio day or a circuit day? What
Yeah,
would you?
Yeah, I
Work on
mean,
the
look, yeah. First of all, I mean, I haven't, for that reason of bulky arms and stuff like that. I haven't written a direct arms day for a female client in fucking years.
okay.
Well, basically, as long as it's been since I've trained like a stage athlete or something like that.
Okay.
So yes, I would either fill it with another day and redistribute the compounds or the movements or the split, or do what you do, maybe program some modified strength training, modified strongman work or some cardio, maybe some prowler pushes, some loaded carries, something of that nature, something that's going to have carryover to the strength
Yeah.
work, but also be a good have a good metabolic effect.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I won't go the route of cardio because she's a menace on her treadmill already.
Yeah.
So she can just go and walk stupid amount of steps or runs on the treadmill just because
Right.
she like
What's a
she's
what's a compliance like with a food?
I'd say about 85%.
Yeah.
So she follows a lot of the time. I did recently try to take her from a strict plan and like, okay, you got the strict plan throughout the day, and then on the dinner, you've got these recipes, you can pick one.
Mm-hmm.
She liked that for a bit, but her mindset's very much, oh, I want to be on the strict plan because it works, you know what I mean? Like afraid to change things and have a bit more leniency because she wants the result, but at the same time does not enjoy doing the strict plan, if that makes sense.
Right. Right.
85%. Like she had a weekend of weakness a week ago. She's like, oh, I had a couple of wine. Like she came in, she's like, I don't know why it went up. I'm like, interesting. Like, talk to me everything you had. I found out she had a couple of wines, like cheese ball. I'm like, okay, well, you know why it came up.
Yeah.
Generally, as far as she tells me, because I do ask the questions, it's good most of the time. But when she has an area of weakness, she has a blowout.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I would say about 80 to 85% generally. She does a lot of cardio and that just because she's of the mindset, oh, if I do more, I do more, it should work.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my battle with her is slowing her down.
Mm.
I've given her the analogy, like sometimes my job isn't to, you know what I mean, push you to go. Sometimes, like if you've got someone walking their dog, for example, the dog's trying to get ahead away from it, it's pulling the leash back and saying,
Yeah.
hey, stay here. That's very much my battle with her. She sees things like, oh, it's not moving, let's go more, more, more. And it's
More.
actually a detriment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm thinking I might even just take the arm day out and say, okay, repeat your say quads and back day, or just adding more volume into another area, seeing what that does for the arms specifically. Um,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could give her a couple of arms exercises. That, maybe an isolation bicep and tricep, and what two of the other days, or redistribute the split a little bit to give her to give her the next to fill the extra day. But mate, look, I would say, I mean, that's classic. The reason why I asked about a compliance is that sort of more is better approach is that classic. I will find a way to out train a bad diet. Like she probably understands energy balance and what it is, and she thinks that she can do more, and knowing that she's prone to blowing out, and it's those blowouts, man. Like if it's someone who's a little bit stubborn like that, and genetically it takes a bit of time for them to lose fat, and their metabolism, is not as responsive as the next person, and she puts fat on easy. Having those blowouts dripped in, a couple of those in a month even can really slow the progress and make it hard.
yeah, I'd say it's not even as common as in a month. Like
Oh, okay.
it's not that often. Like every now and then she might have like one little thing off plan.
Right, right.
It's
Okay.
definitely one of the more compliant.
Okay.
Um,
What?
the battle more so is her fear to change because I eventually want to progress her into macros. So she doesn't want to eat like on a strict plan forever, and I don't
Right.
want to. I want to progress over time to macros where she can have that freedom, change things up, and still be able to like, okay, here are my macros. Here's how I can have the freedom, but still stay within my ranges.
Yeah.
Issue with Addie, she's afraid of doing that because she doesn't. She has a belief that she can't get results doing that. If that makes sense.
Right, right.
I don't think it's the most healthy thing for her to be on a strict plan.
Mm.
But it's like, come on, like, let's move over. It's okay, which I tried to do that with, okay, follow the strict plan here to here, have a bit of freedom here. She did that for a bit and enjoyed it, but then she's like, no, I want to go back to this.
Yeah. And what
And
kind of calories have you got her on?
at the moment, let me pull it up.
Let's bring her up.
Where are you? 1700 at the moment.
Oh, okay, okay,
She was lower for a little bit. I brought her up because she was getting tired, like with the lifestyle. So I'm like, all right, let's give you a bit more energy.
yeah,
I did have her do a intensification before, and I've had her on a volume now.
right,
Intensification was interesting for her because I did really teach her how to push herself to that brink. She's very much on the side of, you know what I mean, we'll do reps upon reps upon reps upon reps.
right, right, right.
That intensification was interesting. I just had her on an 8x8,
Mm-hmm.
which she's going to be coming off next week, actually. And she saw some decent progress with the 8x8. But yeah, that's the calories at the moment there.
Yeah, yeah. And how low have you taken her in the past?
Uh, 1400.
1400. And how much does she weigh?
Actually, no, sorry, 1300.
1300. And how much does she weigh?
She is at 68 at the moment. She
68
started at
kilos.
78.
Started at 78.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So she dropped 10 kegs. That's good. Um, yes, look, it's. I would say that for her, maybe. I mean, it's hard to tell because she's doing so much activity and everything, but you might not expect too much movement at the station at 1700 calories.
Mhm.
Um, it's probably a good holding pattern and nice to keep her there for a period of time. But she sounds like she might be one of those slightly more stubborn ones, a bit like your last bloke. Like you had to sort of push the calories a bit before you see the movement. Like, has that been your experience with her?
Yeah. So I brought her calories down to get things moving for a while. With her, the challenge is like with my last bike, I could do whatever. And I'm like, okay, here's what I'm doing. It's like, yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
With her, like yeah, I mean, she doesn't, it's not that she questions me, but she's very much, if she sees a fluctuation between day one to day two, you know what I mean? She
she
freaks out.
stresses out. Yeah,
So it's okay, I want to make these changes, but if I make changes, she freaks out. She's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like more food, what the heck? Or,
yeah,
but I know as well it's not healthy to keep her in like little minimal calories for too long.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
making those decisions, but it's also making those decisions and not having her freak out because then she spirals a little bit in her mind. Like I've
Mm.
had sessions with her where we've just talked,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
you know what I mean, where it's like, okay, cool, let's recenter yourself off. She's had a stressful week at work. Let's manage that. And she's getting slowly better at it, but I'm not just fighting the battle of biology here. I'm also fighting the mental battle of, I mean, it's okay. We can make a change. We can eat that bit more food. We can do things this way. So that slows me down a little bit because I don't want to lose that kind of rapport by making drastic decisions.
yes, yes,
Just because just her personality, I mean,
yeah,
freaks out
yeah.
less at things.
Yeah, 100%. Do you think like when you put her calories up to 1700, do you reckon that she eats them?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
reluctantly, but yeah,
yeah, yeah. Okay, all right. And how long has she been on the 1700 for?
3 weeks now.
3 weeks. And has her weight just stabilized?
Stabilized. Her measurements have come down a bit more over the last couple of weeks. So
Okay.
you can see her weights sitting there. So we had not much loss over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But her navel measurement has come down from 82 centimeters to where was it? No, that's Clayton. Sorry, looking at the wrong one. Um, so she was sitting at around
76.
82, so down to 76 as of yesterday.
Yeah, nice.
Navel's come down a few centimeters, which again we're losing off that the most. Everything else came down except for the arms.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, like her weight's kind of held around there, that 67
Okay.
mark. But the measurements have come off. So I've explained to her, look, if the scale weight holds
Yeah,
for a week, I can see the measurements are coming down. I'm happy to hold there.
yeah,
So I've said to her, like, you're not necessarily losing scale weight, but there is body composition happening.
yeah. Yes, mate. Okay, so it'll be a tricky one because of her personality, but if you can somehow get her to understand that what she's doing now is a real investment in her future fat loss. If she
Yeah.
can, if she can exist at 1700 calories for a period of time, and the weight stabilizes, and there's a little shift in some of those measurements, and she increases her strength a bit, so that her training capacity, like the increasing her strength, will be an investment in her future training capacity as well. So it's
Yeah.
like you're taking her through a period of setting the stage for another more aggressive fat loss burst after this. So
Yeah.
if she can stay at 1700 calories, keep the weight stable, increase her strength, then she's in a great position in a couple of phases time to then go, okay, let's have a nudge back down to 1400 calories. Let's bring some volume back in, and let's go all guns blazing, and and see if we can attack another 4 or 6 kilos.
Yeah. Because she has a goal. She wants to get down to about 63, 62, 63.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so,
what sort of time frame does she want to do that in?
oh, she wants to be there tomorrow.
Tonight, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the managing thing. So her goal is 15 kilos. She started at 78 kilos.
Yeah.
So we're 10 out of about 15 all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so just to clarify off what you said there, you'd keep her at the 1700 calories as long as she's holding and the navel and other measurements are coming down, and then kind of say when the body tape measurements start to hold in place again, then go aggressive again with calories.
Yeah, I would. I mean, if the scale, even if the navel measurements and everything just stay static and they don't keep dropping, but the scale weight's good. If the
Yeah,
scale weight's good, hold her there for as much as she can fucking mentally take it.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, build a base. Give her some time. Explain to her let her appreciate, ask her, if you could have imagined that over the period of time that we've been training that you'd be where you are now and you'd have dropped 10 kilos back then, I'm sure you would take it. So I'm offering you the opportunity for that last 5 kilos, but it's just going to require this little bit of investment in that fat loss process.
Yeah.
Trust the process,
Mhm.
and we'll get there.
Yeah, for sure. And look, she does like, I mean, she loves trading everything. She understands the journey of it, but
Yes.
like
Emotionally, she can't disconnect the intellectual understanding.
yeah. So like, I'll give you an example. I sent her side by sides that I showed you today, actually.
Mm.
And I said side by sides of the progress made so far. That's what 10% body fat difference looks like. I sent her that, and I don't know if can you see that?
I can't re- Oh, it's an emoji of some sort.
Yeah. So it's the vomiting emoji. It's like not enough.
Oh,
Like,
fuck. Yeah,
and I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
still more to do. And she's like, so much more. It's taking too long with like that. So I
Right.
think she always understands the journey, but it's that disconnecting the emotional. I want to be there tomorrow kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so like she's in good spirits. We have good rapport and everything. I'm
Good.
just worried. Well, not worried, but I'm like aware that, you know what I mean? If we don't get things, well, they're moving. They are moving.
Mm.
But keeping her aware that there is a progress process and there is a minimum and a maximum I want to see in a time frame.
Yeah,
And I don't want to get that point. It's like, okay, I actually do want to see results tomorrow. You know what I mean? Keeping her going, if that makes
yes,
sense. Losing motivation. Because
yeah.
we are progressing. And even though the scale weight's held, we can see the navel measurements coming down. We can see other measurements. The arms are being stubborn, which I want to get moving, because that's her biggest thing at the moment. It's like, oh, these thin arms.
Yeah.
I've stopped her from doing body tape measurements every week because she'd get down on herself with if certain things didn't move week by
Mm.
week. So I'm like, okay, every couple of weeks now we're doing this just so it's not so much in your face.
Yeah.
It's just saving that motivation and keeping in mind, okay, it's a journey, not a sprint.
Yeah. Mate, this sounds a little bit weird, but with my clients, if anyone ever says, oh, my fucking arms, or if they talk down to any part of their body, I always say your body listens to you. Like, just be, if you find yourself saying that to yourself, just apologize and say, I love your arms. It's going to be okay. We're going to get there. And like, piece by piece, it just kind of changes their emotional connection with what they see in the mirror. You know what
Yeah,
it's like? You look in the mirror and you look at everything you don't like.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everyone does it. It's part of the human condition. It's okay.
Yeah. It's interesting. At the moment, I lost my chain of thought. The mindset she has at the moment, it's like we keep going, like it's gonna have to come off there eventually.
Yeah, yeah.
She's got the attitude of like, let's corner it. So there's days that, right, like, at some point, like it's not gonna have a choice. It's gonna come up. But other days, like, I want to be there tomorrow. I
Yeah,
was like, I understand I can't be there tomorrow, but I want it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
That's the battle at the moment. She's good,
She's
but
good.
sometimes she's her own worst enemy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good one, mate. I think you're doing the right thing. That sounds good. Hold her at 17 for a little bit, and then have another crack when she's ready. When all the pieces of life are nicely in place as well, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just trying to like she sees it, but I just keep reminding her the value. Like, look, I mean, your energy's up. You're enjoying your training. Look what we've achieved. And she's like, oh no, I know. It's just keeping that kind of willingness to keep going. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Just like, yeah, it's interesting because it's not just
So she's just signed up for a new block recently.
so she's about 4 or 5 sessions, I think, into her current one.
Yeah,
Because the thing is, like with her last one, it was like, oh, I want to continue. I just got to find the money somewhere, and she did that. So she sees a value in it, and she wants to keep going.
yeah,
But it's like, okay, I've got to keep her spirits high. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
I know we can get the result, but
yeah.
not in the time frame that she wants. It's going to
Right.
take longer because we have X, Y, Z we're combating. There's a lifestyle stress. There's a few other things factors in
Mm,
there.
mm,
So we just need a bit longer. It's like keeping her aware of that and not
yeah.
letting her expectations run wild.
So how many more weeks has she got left in this package?
6 or 7 off the
Six or
top of my
seven,
head.
6 or 7 weeks. And do you think is there any danger that she won't resign?
It'll just be finance.
Be finance. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I'm doing a good job of keeping it on track and maybe like getting down on stuff like, oh shit, like if we hit a plateau.
yeah,
But at the moment, she's loving it and she sees a value in it.
yeah.
So I know I think I'll keep her around for at least another package after this.
Okay, okay, good, good, good. All right. Yeah, if she, I mean, that would be one thing that might influence how you do her calories. Like if she's at 1700 and everything's going well, and you feel like you can keep her there for longer, but it's like it's coming up to the end of the package, and you want to fucking have her in the process of results at the end of the package, so that she's keen to get in it. Then you might pull them back at 3 or 4 weeks out from the end of that package, maybe,
Yeah,
and get that next little drop happening.
it's just the hard thing too, because a lot of like I've got a few clients who their lifestyles are fucking money. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, what's the point between chasing pure body composition but still allowing this person to function in their day-to-day lives and
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's that balance there. Like I don't want to put her too heavy in the thing and her say to me like I'm struggling to crawl through my days. So I
Mm.
guess I'm just fighting that a little bit with her because I know at the moment she's running around after her parents, starting a new job, focusing on a
Yes.
side career. So I'm like, all right, where's the point where body composition is not the most important thing? It's just keeping her functioning. I don't want it to be a car without petrol.
Mm. 100%.
Um, that's a bit of a juggling act there. I'm enjoying the challenge, but
Yeah.
I suppose with her it would be easier if she was like my other client Clayton, who I was speaking to you about. It was like, mate, you just tell me what I got to do and I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But she has that attitude, but it's also like, I mean, okay, but can we get the result tomorrow? No, we can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And maybe she doesn't. Maybe Clayton's just a good responder. Maybe she's a little more stubborn.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't want to. We'll keep this between you and me, but once in a while, I've noticed my males are kind of like more. Tell me what I got to do, and females are like, okay, I want it tomorrow though.
Yes.
It's funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh mate.
want to record saying that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. No, mate. I totally understand. Fuck. Of course. That's mate. This is the challenge of being a human being. Doing the things you want to do and actually feeling good about it. It's hard. It's hard to do, mate. I don't know if everyone that I train and everyone that I know. I don't know anyone who doesn't have problems, right?
Yeah, no, that's it. Everyone has their thing, and I
Yeah.
pride myself. I feel like one of my biggest strengths is definitely connecting with people
Mm.
and kind of getting their minds like, okay, what do you really value? Um, and that kind of thing. Like, I definitely think my biggest area is the skill set kind of thing, but I coach lifestyle very well. So
Yes.
I pride myself on that, but I still have cases where I'm like, all right, am I doing everything right? Or am I missing something here? Am I connecting with this person to,
Yeah.
I feel like I am with her, but I'm trying to break that mental, like sprint mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We've definitely progressed with that, but there's still something there. I'm like, I need to get her to relax. how do I do?
How do you do that? Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
just just time, and just constantly working away. I mean, ultimately, she has to get herself to do that.
yeah,
Yeah, there's only so much you can actually control. But mate, if you're asking yourself these questions about your clients and what you're doing, you won't make mistakes because you have enough knowledge behind you to know to know appropriate things to do. So as long as you're asking the question, am I doing the right thing here? Am I pulling the right lever at the right time? If you ask yourself those questions, and you think about how you would answer one of the other guys if they asked you those questions, answer your own questions. You'll come up with the right answer, mate, because you know what you need to do.
yeah. For sure. I've definitely done that as well. Like I've had a few, like the other guys ask me a question, like, okay, I've struggled this before, but this is kind of how I learned to move past it. And
Yeah.
I find teaching is the best way to learn.
Yes.
Almost.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true.
no, so it's interesting. I've presented you two very different cases there. Like one's very easy and the other one's very hard in terms of managing the expectations.
Mm.
And then they both have stresses, but in very, very different ways and have come from very different kind of backgrounds there.
Mm.
But there's also some similarities. So I guess one thing I'm really combating at the moment is okay, like stress hormone, cortisol, both high, you know what I mean? Balancing, okay, what we're doing here to they still need to have their daily lives and function in other things. So I guess because I'm still a young coach, I'm just trying to work that out.
Um, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard because you sometimes you don't know how far you can go with them until you've gone too far.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, but we do it like they need to train. So training is part of it. So you have to apply that stress, but it's also it's a nice acute stress. It's something to use stress, and then it's working on them to manage their sleep, and to if they're sleeping, like that's a massive thing, and then yeah, finding asking them questions in session about their lifestyle and the stresses that they encounter, so that they have that chance to actually reflect on what they're doing, and actually talk to someone who's there just to listen to them and to help them, who's focused on them for that period of time, enables them to sometimes come to their own conclusions and realizations around how they could manage their stress during the day better and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a process, takes time.
cool. One final question with her, based on
Mm.
everything I've told you. What are your thoughts on doing similar to how I explained with Clayton, but a DUP kind of training with her where I've got the shorter stuff start of the week, higher stuff end of the week? Do you think that's something that you would explore with her as well, or do you think more so on the simpler methods?
Well, look, if she's like keen to train as much as you say, and she's in there 6 days a week, then that DUP method is a very simple way of getting 6 workouts in a week without overtraining.
Yep. Okay,
So
cool.
I think that would be a very appropriate method. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking with her as well. I want to put her onto that, and she's someone who's got aspirations to compete in the future.
Oh, okay.
Actually, with her, I had to manage her expectations. Like, look, I will not put you in comp prep until we manage the health side of things. So we've got it down from 29 point something percent body fat down just off my pinch, just under 20%.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still very much focused on the health, not just physically, but also mentally. Like, okay, look, I don't want you to go in a comp with this mindset because, you know what I mean? I don't want to get you to the point where you're at that extremes and then you've broken yourself mentally and you can't come back from it.
Mm.
So I feel like putting her on a DEP and saying, look, this is what I do for my competitors, might be just a good bone to throw her, and maybe that
Yeah.
bit of compliance. When it comes to re-sign times, like, okay, well, he's got me doing this now. I've seen progression from these kind of training methods he's doing before to now where he's putting me on what my competitors do. In my mind, I'm still not gonna, I mean, push her to compete, but it's like, look, we can do these kind of methods and kind of give her that kind of shiny toy, but also get the
Yeah.
results.
Yeah. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Like, if ultimately she does want to do that, then yeah, at least psychologically get her into the. I'm moving you now into the comp prep pathway.
Yeah.
But exactly what you said. You'd need to mentally, emotionally, financially, cost a lot to do a comp. Like if she's got concerns there, like all of those things would have to be in a much better place before she really started a prep. How old is she?
She's approaching 50,
Approaching 50. Yeah. Okay.
46, 47. Yeah.
Right. 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 Okay. Yep. Cool. Cool. I had a 50-year-old female do a comp. Like that was her dream to do that. So it's yeah, you don't want to quash someone's dream if that's what she wants to do. Then yeah,
Yeah, she wants to do it. It's just there's a lot of boxes in my mind that needs to be ticked
a
because
lot, man.
even if physically she's, and she's not, she still has a long way to go physically. But even
Mm,
if she was all there, her mindset at the moment, I'd be worried because even like when I was younger and I was a sprinter, middle distance runner, I had a very dangerous attitude. It was all or nothing. It was like, right, even if I won that race, if I didn't run the time I wanted to, I'd be very, very down on myself.
mm,
I can't put anyone through that with that mindset because I know the damage it does.
yeah,
So it's something I'm trying to manage, but I think a DUP would be great for her because she loves going to the gym. She wants to be doing 6 times a week.
yeah,
I can play with the volume in different body parts a bit better with that method.
yeah.
So that's just something I was thinking I want to get your thoughts on as well.
No, I think that'd be a good method, mate. Because you can. The thing is, you can just rinse and repeat, and you can run it for a long period of time as well.
Yeah, that's it. And it takes the kind of thinking, like, obviously, I'm always going to know where I want to go next,
Yeah,
but it just simplifies it a bit more. It's like, right, we don't need the fancier shit.
yeah,
And I've found over time the simple stuff is sometimes of what stuff that gets better results.
100%, mate.
So yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking of taking it. But I
Yeah,
just want to make sure she's not going to get ahead of herself and I say, oh, we're doing this.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, no. Get her onto it. I reckon. I think that'll be good.
yeah, well, she's training. She's starting a new training phase next week. Can't remember off the top of my head, but I have got it down. So I'm just looking through my folder.
Yeah.
Yeah, about to start her on a heavy light method.
Oh yeah, nice.
Coming off an 8x8. So I had her on a more volume based,
Yeah,
8x8, just chasing that more recomp where scale weight slowed down a little bit, but the measurements coming up, dropping. So that's kind of what I wanted to see from that phase,
mm-hmm.
just measurements drop. Now
Is
I've
that
got on the heavy.
is that like the Garonda style
Yeah,
short rest
yeah.
period 8x8? Yep.
So 8x8, 40 seconds rest in
Yep.
between.
Mm-hmm.
So I had it there, body weight held, navel measurements and body measurements dropped on a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to do the 6 to 8 where I really want to hit the explosive muscle fibers in a 6 rep range.
Yep.
So 6 and then 12 on the same muscle to hit the slower twitch fibers.
Nice.
So that's where I took her in that direction. But after that, I'm thinking about throwing her into the DUP, which I'm going to sit down to her next week and say, look, here's what we're doing for the next 4 weeks.
Yep.
Here's how to do it. And after this, I want to put you into this, which is a longer periodization. It looks like this.
Yep.
But manage expectations. This does not mean you're in comp prep. I'm just giving you this shinier kind of.
Yeah. No, I think
Yeah.
that makes total sense. Like, obviously, a heavy light coming out of the Garonda. You know, the Garonda having those short rest periods and developing the work capacity that'll have good carryover for the heavy light. And the heavy light's such a nice, you know, versatile, but just ticks all the boxes kind of program that you can then you can kind of transition to anything out of a heavy light. There's that little bit of that strength work at the start and the bit of volume. So
Yeah.
taking her into the DUP would work nicely out of heavy light for sure.
What are your thoughts? Because obviously I'm transitioning from a Vince Garonda method into a heavy light. Is
Mm-hmm.
that something you would do, or do you think that's a bit left field or outside the box?
No, mate. I mean that and so the Garonda you would have been doing antagonist supersets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that the carryover there is the density of the workout. You know, you pack a lot of work into a short period of time, but with sub maximal loads because of the rest period. So you carry over the work capacity and into the heavy light. And then the heavy light just enables you to apply a little bit more intensity. So it's almost, whilst there is the volume, you'll be lifting, that 6 will be in relative terms a truer 6 than what the 8 was, than how true the 8 was in the Garonda method.
Yeah, because it's more rest time. It's like, okay, reset, goes
Complete
hard,
rest.
and
Yeah.
rather than what you can do for this. And that's what I was thinking too, because the heavy light, it's like, all right, you got the heavy and the light in the one session, but
Yeah.
going into a DUP, you kind of expand that. So instead of the heavy light in the same session, you've got the heavy at the start of the week and the lighter at the end of the week. So it's kind of like branching the heavy light into a wider scope, was what I was
Correct.
thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, awesome to get that just confirmation off you, because I was like, am I being an idiot here or am I making sense? But
No, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
cool. Well, look, man, thanks for your time. Sorry, we went a little bit over.
No, man, that was good. That's gold. That was great. It's good to have a chat.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously, when everyone else is around, like, you've got to focus on everyone, but it was good to get the one-on-one time with you and pick your brain on a couple of burning questions I had.
Yeah, man. No, it's a pleasure. I think you're doing a great job, mate. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not sure if I'll be here next week just because I've got a cardiology appointment.
Yeah. Just a
But
check up, mate. Is everything all good?
so I do have some things going on with my heart.
Right.
Started, yeah, but I had an incident this year. So I've got this device in my chest at the moment. So I'm just going to kind of get some readings on that, and I'm going
Right.
to tell them to check it out because it's caused some other issues without going into detail. But
Mm.
yeah, not the best situation. It's impacted my like I haven't trained properly this year just
Fuck.
because at the moment. Yeah, so I March this year I actually collapsed up here in the office, just smack. And then they put a ban on me for a little bit of training. Then I got this device in my chest, which is not supposed to impact me. But ever since I had it put in, I can't push myself doing anything. Like I can't run around too hard. I can't train. I can lift weights lightly, but the second I try to do anything intense, I kind of feel like almost like the life force is leaving my body. And even just at different points, randomly, I might get like a sharp stabbing pain or the kind of a feeling like I'm being electrocuted from the inside.
Right.
It's just this random shit. So I've got this coming up. I'm going to say to them, look, get it out. Where are there options for me?
Yeah. Right. And what were you diagnosed with? What actually happened?
Well, they haven't properly, they think it's Brugada syndrome. So essentially, if it's that, the risk of just dropping dead at any point.
Right.
Uh, Nothing they can do about that, unfortunately.
Mm.
But they haven't actually, it's one of those things sometimes can't diagnose it until it's happened, if that makes sense.
Right.
So my ECG pattern is actually it's not the normal, but it's the normal for me. So, like, look at the signs are that you have it, but we don't actually know if you have it until we get reporting on it. So, hence the device in. The purpose is if I have an episode, they'll get data on it.
Right. Right. Right.
But
Okay.
the device isn't picking things up like it's meant to, like it's not recording. Last time I went there for a check-in, like, oh, we don't have any of the data.
Right. Fuck. Okay.
So it's an interesting one. Bit of a head scratcher.
Mate. Fuck.
So that's where I'll be next week.
Yeah, all right, man. Well, mate, you're doing well to, be running the business that you are and in the headspace that you're in and doing what you do for your clients and not being able to actually train hard yourself, man. Tip of the hat to you. That'd be
Uh,
fucking a nightmare.
yeah, it's frustrating, but I mean, like my analogy I like to give the clients, like you're going to break a finger, what are you going to do? You're going to take a mallet to the rest of the hand or
Yeah,
just isolate what you isolate and then move on.
move on. Yeah,
So that will be my absence next week.
yeah. All right, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good luck with it all, man.
Thanks, mate. Pleasure. Thank you
Yeah.
for your time.
All right, Jordo.
Again soon.
All right, mate. We'll talk soon.